most of us, the most expensive outgoing we have is our rent or our mortgage. And house prices in Australia increased by 22% last year. Rents have increased by 33% in regional areas over the last 10 years and 25% in capital cities. This is putting a huge crisis effectively on housing affordability, and Anglicare Australia has some shocking new research out this morning about rental and people on low incomes. Their CEO Casey Chambers joins me now from Canberra. Casey, good morning. Walk us through some of your shocking findings.
Good morning, Mads. Hard to say good morning, isn't it? Morning, Mads. Look, first of all, we do this every year at this time. The first thing we noticed this year was that there was a really quite a large fall in the number of properties that were available. So we're now down to a rental vacancy of about 1%, which makes it very difficult to begin with. But the purpose of our report and our research is to test for affordability. So 46,000 properties on our test weekend this year, of which when we look at affordability for low-income households, and that's households on government benefits, but also on the minimum wage, we find that virtually nothing is affordable. Rent is the largest expense for any household. It is often, usually inflexible. It has to be paid. But what we found out of those 46,000 properties is that if you were a single person on JobSeeker, you would have had 7 individual properties, and they were all rooms in share houses that would have been affordable. For someone on youth allowance, nothing. For a disability support pensioner, again, very little, less than 1%. And even for that most generous of government benefits, the age pension, for a couple who were looking for somewhere to rent, 1.4% would have been affordable. So very difficult if you're retiring into renting. But that other one that I spoke about is the minimum wage, and we're hearing a lot about wage growth being sluggish, and it certainly is at that lower end. We measure the affordability for a single person working full time on the minimum wage, 1.6% affordability. And if we look at the kind of what a few years ago would have been an average family, 2 parents, 2 kids, family tax benefits, all those things, but full-time minimum wage for both parents, we're looking at only 15% being affordable. And that's when we're talking about people working full-time.
Absolutely shocking. And what do you mean by affordable, Casey, just to be clear?
Yeah, so look, it's an internationally accepted benchmark where we've got people on low incomes. We take it that 30% of their income being spent on rent or housing makes it affordable. So, for that group, that's what we do see in reality is that people are spending very much more than that, and often up to 80% of their income on securing housing, which of course forces difficult and not good decisions around things like food, as you talk about, fresh veg, very much out of reach for many, many families, particularly those on welfare benefits.
What I find interesting about this election campaign is, even though this is an out-and-out, honestly, a crisis in Australia now, a housing affordability crisis, it's not really featuring much as an election issue.
Yeah, it feels quite crazy to be here in 2022 in a developed country talking about why housing is a need and why it's sort of a basic human right. But yeah, and particularly rental, we get very frustrated. We're told that the private rental market is there to meet the needs of low income and average Australians. 30% of Australians rent, and people are renting for longer, including, as I mentioned earlier, people retiring into renting. Some people, their whole housing career is in rental, and yet we see no measures aimed at rents. The other shocking thing is that rents, as you highlighted in your introduction, they go up and have been going up way in excess of wages and even inflation. And of course, government benefits and minimum wage are trailing those again. So it really is a crisis. And we really are seeing, with the level of affordability and availability, many, many more families and individuals coming to our emergency housing services, coming to our services that are able to provide food. This is crisis point for many, many families.
And Casey, just finally, the issue here is supply. It's affordability, but it's supply. We just don't have enough houses at any end of the spectrum, but particularly at that lower end of affordability.
We certainly need to be seeing an investment in social housing. I mean, it's a bit of a no-brainer. It puts stimulus into local economies where they're built. It gives people somewhere to live. And as we said earlier, you know, education, the economy, jobs, your health, they all fall in a heap if you haven't got secure and affordable housing to do those from.
Casey Chambers, thank you very much for speaking to us this morning on News Breakfast about this very, very concerning report.
Thanks, Mads.